What's going on, everybody? This is Buffy with Impact Sports Breaks here on Impact Sports Radio for our episode number 2. We're going to stick with football again this week. Beginning of football season is such a fun time of year for cards. We're going to get into that a little bit later on as to why I feel that way, and why probably everyone feels that way. It's like Christmas, like if you just don't know what gifts you're getting. It's like a Secret Santa every week. But before we delve into the new things that have occurred and deserve our talking points, we're going to go back to what we talked about last week and follow up on some of the players that had broken out in week 1 and see how they stand after week 2 and one game of week 3 in the case of the Jaguars, mainly Gardner Minshew and DJ Chark. But to just quickly go over some of the guys, we had talked kind of at length about a few guys, mainly the Jaguars wide receivers, Darren Waller, Marlon Mack, Austin Eckler, about guys that were potential breakout candidates as far as investments go. Pretty much everything we talk about here is going to be related to investing in the hobby, whether it be short-term, long-term, or long-term. So in regards to that, Eckler followed up his stellar game 1 with a pretty solid game 2. Unfortunately, he lost 2 fumbles, but there's still really no competition for him in the backfield there in San Diego. He's without a doubt the best player, which is good news. His lack of rookie autos, which we discussed, make him a very, very interesting target to look at throwing your money at. Not much has changed from what we talked about last week with him. So if you go back to last week's episode, I'm going to refer back to that a couple times. So that'll go into a lot of this stuff a lot more in depth. Same thing with Marlon Mack. He had a little bit of a subpar showing in week 2. Not really the greatest matchup for him, but pretty much nothing has changed in regards to what we talked about with him. The changes that have occurred for the players that we had already talked about really are in Jacksonville, and they're through week 3 now. But first of all, Gardner Minshew looks like an NFL player. Now we've seen this before. Trevor Siemian comes to mind in Denver when he took over. Everyone's, Trevor Siemian, this guy's an NFL quarterback, and now look at him. He's not. He's a career backup. We're going to talk a little bit more about him later on in the show once we start getting into injuries and how that affects everything. But you got to remember, very small sample size so far for Gardner Minshew. There's no book on how to stop Gardner Minshew yet. But from what I've seen so far, he looks like a guy who's accurate enough, especially within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's mobile enough where he can keep plays alive with his legs, but he doesn't look to run. Very similar to kind of what like Russell Wilson does, which is good. It's a great quality to have. You never want to be trapped in the pocket, but at the same time, you don't want to be just looking to take off every play either. And that bodes well for the receivers. Very well for DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook, and Chris Conley. Out of the 3, I still stand by Chark being the best bet. He's the biggest body, the most athletic talent, the youngest player. So not much has really changed. You've seen a slight uptick in prices for Chark. You could get some decent cards for him in the $7 to $10 range. Now most of those cards are kind of bumped up into the $10 to $15 range. Touchdowns in 3 straight games now. So he's still the one that I think if I would want to throw some money into the situation, that would be the guy that I'd be going after. But just remember, we're still looking at a very small sample size of the Gardner Minshew mania. So just be cognizant of that. It's not like a sure thing because the guy, was able to beat the Titans and, have orchestrate one fourth quarter drive that could have won the game against Houston. Other than that, it's been a lot of easier throws, shorter distances, but definitely playing the part, giving them a chance to win, which is really all you can ask for out of a quarterback. Not everyone has to be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady to take a step forward in the hobby. You don't have to be Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball left and right. It helps, but you don't need every investment, to go from a $50 auto to a $5,000 auto. You're going to hit singles more times than not. So hitting a home run every now and again is nice, but Gardner Minshew, you can definitely hit a couple singles or doubles with him. Same thing with possibly some of the receivers. My money's on Chark. A couple other guys that I think deserve a little bit more talking time. Well, one in particular is Darren Waller. Again, you got a second chance, guys. If you didn't buy in for a couple bucks, you can still pick up a couple of his rookie autos, some of the cheaper ones, for $5 to $7. what are you going to lose? What are you going to lose at that price point? The guy can literally be a top 3 tight end in the league. He's on a popular team. He's got the following that he generated during Hard Knocks is this big, giant physical specimen, and he's definitely their best receiver. So I don't know what we're doing not throwing a couple bucks at Darren Waller. Diversifying your portfolio, especially when it comes to football, is one of the best and most important things that you have to do. So you're missing an opportunity if you're not picking up at least a couple Darren Wallers. I mean, if you really want to go for it, buy a Contenders Auto. They're $30. Buy a Parallel for $50. That's my recommendation for you for week 2. Is if you haven't done so, just get a couple. They're not impossible to find yet. But 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, if he does what he's been doing and winds up with 40 catches by week 6 with 450 yards, 500 yards, a couple touchdowns, you're not going to be getting his autos for $5 anymore, especially if the Raiders are winning. All right, so that's kind of our recap for the guys we talked about in week 1. Just to cover everyone, the rookies that we talked about in week 1, nothing's changed. They're still too high to buy into to me. So I'm not paying $30 for Marquise Hollywood Brown score rookie auto. I'm just not doing it. That's silly. You can buy a Julio Jones rookie auto for $5 more. So don't fall into the hype. Don't fall into the it's new, like what could be. There's just no upside at that price. The guy would literally have to pull the Odell Beckham one-handed catch out of the sky, and even then Beckham's prices have come way back down to earth, and he's done nothing but produce since then. But a couple guys that we wanted to talk about that have broken out in week 2 that weren't on our radar in week 1 are someone who's in a very similar boat. Like honestly, you couldn't be in a more similar boat to Gardner Minshew than Luke Falk is. Another 6th-round quarterback out of Washington State, thrust into the starting role, just completed an absolute butt ton of his passes in relief. And his team, they came up short, the Jets, thanks in no part to a Le'Veon Bell fumble on the 3-yard line. That had a chance to make that actually a game. But Luke Falk, 6th-rounder, Washington State, 2nd time in 2 weeks. It's serendipitous how some of this stuff turns out. But rookie autos, they're going for a couple bucks. $8, $10, $12 maybe for the cheapest ones. If someone is just trying to move it fast, get in, get out, make a couple bucks off something that they thought was going to sit in a dollar box forever. So I think Luke Falk, excellent investment for this week because it's the NFL. Anyone could win any week. I don't care that the Jets are 23.5-point underdogs to the Patriots because the Patriots can't even go into Miami and beat the Dolphins half the time. I think in Florida prior to last week, they had lost 5 of their last 6 games there, and the Dolphins were pretty bad every single one of those years with the exception of 1. And you see it every week where a lesser team comes through and competes against a much better team, at least for most of the game or part of the game, and that's really all you need for Luke Falk's prices to go up. You don't need Luke Falk to beat Tom Brady. If Luke Falk does what he did last week, which is 20 for 25, 200 yards, no turnovers, sprinkles a touchdown or 2 in there, and they don't get embarrassed, well, my gosh, I think that's a very successful showing for Luke Falk. And something that probably warrants more attention than the $10 his rookie autos are going to get because he's the starter for the next 4 weeks. And don't even, just set your expectations, but try and think about what's going to happen if by chance somehow they do win. Can you imagine? What would a Luke Falk rookie auto go for if he led the Jets to beat the Patriots in an absolute just historic upset, regular season wise? Is he a $60 auto right away? Maybe not. I don't know. But it depends on how well he plays. But football's, all it takes is one defensive score here, a drop pass there, maybe a special teams play here, and just 21-point swing. And then, your 31 to 3 blowout all of a sudden is a 1-score game. And the Jets definitely have the personnel to make things like that happen. I mean, you have on the offensive side of the ball, obviously, Le'Veon Bell is one of the best at his position in the NFL. Robbie Anderson, just the ultimate deep threat. It's kind of his thing. And then you've got an ultimate checkdown guy, too, in Jamison Crowder underneath to help you out. Same thing with Bell when plays break down and you gotta look underneath into the flat. So I'm hoping that Luke Falk will be able to pull something off, because it's always good for the hobby, when junk turns into garbage, or junk turns into garbage, junk turns into gold. But I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know. So if you want, grab a Luke Falk. His absolute rookie auto is $10 to $15. We're actually going to be giving one of those away. So all you got to do to win the Luke Falk is guess his stats. We need the following from you for the Luke Falk rookie auto giveaway. And the contest will lock at game time on Sunday. So we need you to predict how many points did the Jets score, how many yards does Luke Falk throw for, and how many touchdowns. We'll use the points scored as the tiebreaker. It'll go yards will be your number one category. Touchdowns will be the number two. If two people happen to guess the same thing, points scored for the Jets will be the tiebreaker. Yeah, pretty easy. Win yourself a Luke Falk auto. Hopefully they win, and it's money in the bank, shorty what you drank. I am drinking Dunkin' Donuts. One other player I want to talk about before we get into the important part of the conversation that we need to have today is DeMarcus Robertson. So if you told me, even in training camp, that the five people I'd be talking about the most so far through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season were two 6th-round quarterbacks from Washington State, a guy who was drafted as a wide receiver in 2015, suspended for almost 3 years for violating substance abuse policies, who reemerged himself as the tight end, drafted in the 5th round or the 6th round, a guy who couldn't even get on the field last year for the Chiefs, and who am I forgetting? Ray? Help a brother out. Who am I forgetting? Waller? Oh, DJ Chark. Yeah, a guy who had 146 receiving yards last year as a rookie, as a 2nd-round pick. Yeah. If you told me that those would be the 5 guys I'd be most focused on by week 2 of the NFL season, I'd be homeless. I would have bet it all. Broke. Done. Take the shirt on my back with it. But that's what's kind of important to take note of, is the NFL is so wacky. It's so unpredictable. That guys like DeMarcus Robinson, they can come out of nowhere. There's always another guy. There's always a next man up. So DeMarcus Robinson, interesting. You can still get some rookie autos for $5 or $6. He's another guy. What does it hurt? I mean, Patrick Mahomes makes everyone so much better. If he can stay on the field, I wouldn't be surprised to see him put up huge numbers. Huge. 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's just the big play guy that's there now that Tyreek Hill is sidelined. So he's another guy. You're missing out. I mean, if you think that the $5 or $6 isn't worth the investment, then you're doing this the wrong way. Again, probably not going to get rich off DeMarcus Robinson, but when $5 becomes $20 a couple times, then you can, you keep turning that over, turn it over from week to week to week to week to week, because what we're about to talk to is going to happen over and over and over and over and over again throughout the course of the year, and next year, and the following year, and every year after that. And that's opportunity because of injury. So it's very, very, very tough to invest in the NFL. Very tough. Almost impossible, because it's so unpredictable that, days where there's not even a game. You're talking non-contact injuries in practice. Dante Fowler, the 3rd pick in the 2015 draft, 10 minutes to the first minicamp, done for the year, non-contact injury. Teddy Bridgewater, coming off a Pro Bowl in 2016, almost done for his career. They didn't even know he'd ever come back. Non-contact injury in practice. And, the list goes on and on and on and on of these guys that suffer these injuries. You see it happen in games all the time, too, but it's debilitating, too. It's not like, a sprained ankle or something like that where they come back in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. These guys miss significant time. Torn pec muscles, torn biceps on innocent, innocuous-looking plays, because it's such a physical sport that putting your money into football beforehand, I don't think it's the way to go. You always want to be... you always want to be ahead of the curve. You want to be there before the blow up happens in every other sport. You want to do your homework, do your research, do all this stuff, and identify these guys and get in early for baseball, basketball, and hockey. By the time that they start producing on the field, it's usually too late. Football's the opposite. Football, you just got to be a reactionary, but almost immediate. So what you should be doing for football is, before the season starts, you shouldn't be throwing money at Sam Darnold or any of these guys, because It's going to happen to someone, usually multiple people. You don't know who. No one knows. We can't sit here and predict stuff like this. Someone's going down, and if you're throwing big money into people, into potential, you're going to lose it 9 times out of 10. Probably more than that. Probably 19 times out of 20. Because there's just so many factors that attribute to a football player's value, and health is the biggest one. It's so unpredictable, and all it takes is sometimes it's not even your fault. Sometimes you just get cheap shotted. You just take a helmet to the helmet on because some donk linebacker is an idiot, and see you later season. Sometimes some idiot dives at your knees, and bye ACL. See you later. It's tough. And it's unpredictable. So spending big money investing into football is the wrong way to do it. Unless something or you have a feeling and you've never been more sure in your life when you see someone and you just know that they're the next thing. Like if you were at LSU and you saw Odell Beckham just making one-handed catches left and right in practice, which became kind of a big deal when he got to the NFL. People were like, wow, they're watching this guy warm up. Like, it's crazy. If you see something like that and you know that he's special and he's different, okay, take your shot, shoot your shot, because there will always be an Aaron Rodgers or a Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady. It'll always be there eventually, every couple years. Hopefully sooner, more frequent than not, for everyone's sake. But for the rest of that, it's going to be littered with Blake Bortles. It's going to be littered with Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, Derek Carr even, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston, pretty much every first-round quarterback. For the most part, because it's so difficult and you just can't throw money at these guys because they become Ryan Tannehill, and it's hard to be a quarterback in the NFL. So it's the wrong way to invest. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of money more often than not. The right way to do it is you wait for the opportunity. You find your backups that are young. You look at these guys, figure out which ones have had college success in NFL systems. Find guys that Demarcus Robinson, perfect example. If anyone on that receiving core went down, right, he would get more playing time. Now, he was still getting playing time, just in a more limited role, and he was producing in that role. However, Patrick Mahomes is so good, and we all know that Patrick Mahomes is so good and can throw to anyone, especially guys that are fast. If you were smart enough to sit down and look at the rosters and figure out, next man up type stuff, you would have seen that Demarcus Robinson for a $2 or $3 rookie auto, what do you have to lose? Nothing, but what do you have to gain? One injury propels him into a whole nother tier, probably 2 or 3 tiers higher than where he was before that. And that's the way to do football. It takes a lot more research and a lot more work and a little bit of luck, but you don't even have to buy into those players until the injury happens. Just know who's next. Just know. All you got to do is know. You got to know that when, Todd Gurley goes down, Malcolm Brown is sitting there at 2015 Topps Chrome Autos. You can get him for like $3. Go buy yourself a Contenders for $4, because if Gurley tweaks his knee and just can't play, or if he gets hurt, it's the Malcolm Brown show. And I can guarantee you that Malcolm Brown's cards in that system, because he's already proven he can do it, and so is Gurley, they're going to triple, at least. Just know who's next, and just be ready. Come game day, if you really want to do it right, come game day, sit there, get your computer on your lap, follow the games, follow what's going on. If you see guys touching the ball when, they normally don't, or getting extended run for whatever reason, go find their cards. Buy into it cheap. If you lose a couple bucks, you lose a couple bucks. It is what it is. You're never going to be perfect, but I would rather take the $10, $20, $30 investment that can bring me 10 times that amount back than throwing $200 at a Sam Darnold and hoping to God that nothing bad happens to him. And on top of that, he produces at a level that's of a top 5 or 6 quarterback, so that card goes up. Because you're paying like he's a top 5 quarterback right now just based off potential, based off nothing. Off nothing except that, he was a high pick and he's got potential. When historically, quarterbacks, worst investment when you're talking risk aversion. So your money, you can do what you want with it, but injuries, they will crush you. They will crush you. They'll crush your wallet. They'll make you never, ever want to invest ever again. So football's tough. Be cautious. Luckily, there's guys out there, and if you look, the guys that have hit like that next level of pricing, pretty much injury-free. Brady had 1 year where he took that low hit, but other than that, Iron Man, essentially. Drew Brees, 13 years in New Orleans. Missed one game before last week because I started him in fantasy and lost the week because of it. Yeah. So these guys, like, if you see a quarterback and you're thinking like, oh, we're gonna get to that next level, you're probably not. It takes incredible luck, incredible talent around you, incredible talent, for the quarterback himself to have, and a lot of things to go right. So, the trickle down effect is so much greater at the other positions, because at least quarterbacks, you're talking, you're a very small pool of people that can do that job. If you get hurt as a quarterback, if you're good enough, you come back, you got your job back. You're not going to lose your job to someone. If you're a receiver or a running back, there's always someone waiting. There's someone that's younger, faster, stronger, better hands, whatever it might be, there's always someone waiting to take your job, because those positions don't rely on the same things that quarterback rely on. So, you're talking, hey, what's going on in San Francisco at the running back position? Think about it. Jerick McKinnon got signed last offseason, so two off seasons ago. Tore his ACL. Bummer, right? So then Matt Breida comes in. This year they got everyone back and healthy. Breida had a great year last year. It was unbelievable. Now, Jerick McKinnon comes back. Okay, well, we got two running backs now. And then, Breida does okay. McKinnon's doing okay. They're both doing all right. No matter what Matt Breida did last year, they're still going to give time to McKinnon. McKinnon gets hurt again. Breida gets dehydrated. And now Raheem Mostert, a special teamer. The guy was literally a special teams player. Now he looks like he might be the best running back out of the bunch. Like, what do you have to do to keep your job? Not get hurt. That's pretty much it. Don't get hurt. Don't turn the ball over. One of those things you can control. The other, sorry. A lot of times too, you look at you gotta look at the offensive line too when it comes to all this stuff. Football's such a team sport that people don't even realize that. Leonard Fournette might be running head first into just people hitting him 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage every play, but just bad luck that the one series that he's out, whoever's behind him, they actually open up a hole and he breaks it off for 60 yards. And then, you look at it a couple games into the season and, oh, geez, Leonard Fournette stinks, but look at his backup. He's tearing it up. Not really. He ran through a hole a bus could go through. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's just so difficult for all these players to maintain value at the skill position. Receiver's probably your safest play. If you're good, you'll probably get time. Running back, it's scary. Quarterback is deathly scary. But for me, my recommendation to you is know who's up next. Next man up is the way to invest in the NFL. So, that being said, focusing on the injuries that happened last week, Teddy Bridgewater, is he a good buy? I don't think so. Maybe very, very short term. He actually might be a better buy once Breeze comes back if he plays well in this 6-game stretch, because if you can get a couple Bridgewaters, if you can prove that he's an NFL caliber quarterback still, if you can get a couple Bridgewaters back when no one's paying attention to him anymore because he's back on the bench, he might be a play for next year. That's probably your best play. Mason Rudolph, $45 to buy in, $40 for a Mason Rudolph auto. So if you know something about Mason Rudolph and you want to take that chance, go for it. Not for me, not my cup of tea. If I was into one, if it was me, well, it was me. I had one I was into for $6. It's already gone. If I wanted to, I could have kept it and gambled with it. But the point is to be on these guys before the injury happens. But Rudolph's probably your most talented of the backups that are starting, at least from the couple things that I've seen. Only game film will tell. But I guess best of luck to everyone. Luke Falk's my pick for your best investment for upside return this week. Probably unlikely, but he's the injury guy that I would be focusing on grabbing a card or two just in case, because you don't want to be sitting there if he plays very well and they win, or if they manage to at least compete against the Patriots. You don't want to be left out in the dark when Luke Falk autos are $70 when they can be had now for about 10. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys for this week. So go ahead and enjoy week 3 of the NFL. And don't forget, Luke Falk contest. Get your guesses in on either YouTube or Instagram by game time on Sunday. I believe it is a 1 o'clock game. I'm going to double check real fast. How many passing yards will Luke Falk have? How many touchdowns will Luke Falk have? Passing yards will be the number one. Closest without going over will win. If there's a tie, 2 people guess the same number, and that's the winner. We'll go to touchdowns. If there's a tie there, guess the amount of points the Jets will score. If you guys all do the same, if you pick all 3 the same, it'll be whoever posts first. Game is at ... Ray's saying 1. I think he's right. My phone's not getting any service. 1 o'clock. Right, Ray? Stone Cold Lock? Ray says yes. All right. So thanks again for watching, guys. Go ahead and post those guesses up either on the YouTube channel or on Instagram, and we'll be back next week with maybe another football update, maybe a baseball postseason preview. But either way, it'll be something. You get to see my face again. All right, guys. Have a good weekend.